Let's kick this hour off with the latest in George, where the Labour Minister, Thulas Nxesi, is now meeting with the families of victims. Our reporter, Karinda Jagmohan, is joining us live. Karinda, good afternoon once again. Thank you so much for making time for us. What can you tell us about the Minister's visit and also the expectation that he will also be going to the site?
Certainly, it's a critical visit because this ultimately will see some answers, at least, about the investigation into this criminal site here that has been said that it's a criminal site. Now, he is with families, which is here just next to us at the George local municipality. There's a section of this building that has been cordoned off for families to really just be more comfortable away from the media, away from the cameras, but be able to view what's happening here. For the better part of today, heavy machinery has been used to drill through the concrete, get out the rubble, and start looking at this point for any sign of survivors or bodies. But the minister is expected to do an oversight visit here, and then the media briefing now that was supposed to start at 12 is expected to start at 2 p.m. My colleague Sipa Kema will be there giving you an update, but it is a significant visit at this point. We do expect more such national officials on the ground, considering the magnitude of this case, because as we soon reach the 72-hour mark, now we do expect the answers about the investigations. We heard earlier from Western Cape officials the fact that this will ultimately go into a court case where, which would mean further investigations, but also possibly arrests. But this is something the minister and more officials need to answer about. Now, what I must also tell you is that when we saw officials from the department here, they were busy really taking notes from some of the rescue officers, and then only did we realize that the death toll had increased, and then we understood that they were trying to ascertain how many employees were in the building as per the sign-out sheets from the various companies. So as that progress continues with those officials on the ground, we get more answers with regards to the number of people here. The number or the death toll, the number of people here, it will keep fluctuating, as we have seen in a number of disasters where immediately the figures are not as accurate as they should be, because perhaps more families are coming forward to say that their loved ones are missing. In this case, we see Labour officials coming through to do the administration work to understand exactly how many people were in this building, whether it was from different companies, but also we understand at some point some cleaners were in the building. Visitors or guests of the construction workers were here. For example, one supervisor who survived this collapse on Monday said his wife was with him, his pregnant wife, who fortunately is safe. So in that regard, that is now the information being ascertained, which has seen the number of people that was in this building, that number rise to 81, 44 people still unaccounted for, and sadly 8 having passed away. That means there are 29 survivors in total. Around us, the scene is sort of changing. We have been moved further back. That's why we can't see much. We move further back because of the heavy machinery here, the drilling that is happening, that's seeing debris fly out of the scene, but also masks being handed out, because you can start to get that smell. It's a bit of a putrid smell. It's the smell of a body, perhaps just under the rubble that has been here for days. So that is the situation on the ground. We've been waiting for the minister to come out. There is no sign of him yet, but please stay with us. As soon as we see him, we're going to take you live. Perhaps if we are allowed on that walkabout, there have been some restrictions because of the safety issues, but we all will take you on that in that media briefing starting at 2 o'clock, where critical questions must be raised. Who approved this building? Who certified the safety? And ultimately, what will happen going forward?
Yeah, very important also, Karinda, is in about an hour's time, it will mark 72 hours since the building collapsed, and we're told, like we mentioned before, that after that particular moment, it becomes a search and recovery operation. What do we know about how exactly that's going to change?
So this must be the official word then with regards to recovery operation. So just also to recap, search and rescue means that we're still looking for survivors, but when it comes to recovery, it means now we're going to looking for signs of bodies. And at this stage, especially last night, when we saw that heavy machinery being used, it came as sort of a despondent sight because that drilling that's happening was unlike what we saw earlier on Tuesday, for example, when we saw there was just a careful sort of search because machinery was used, but at the same time, people were digging with their hands because they could hear survivors and they realized they cannot use any machinery because they don't want the structure to further collapse. But that sort of activity is no longer happening now. And I wish you could see, but there are massive cranes being used. The sounds you were hearing earlier are the drills as well, digging into the concrete, the entire structure shaking, and the structure is still unstable. Yesterday at about 3:30, we saw some concrete slabs starting to slip. The teams had to quickly be evacuated because it was dangerous for them as well. This is a 5-story building with 3 basement levels, and right now, with the structure having shifted, it's also further caving into the foundation. We're seeing it just slant inwards, which means that it's getting more and more difficult to get to the bottom of this. So what the drill is doing, it's drilling into the concrete slabs, making it easier for a crane to scoop up the rubble, the remaining rubble, move it away. These trucks then take out that rubble. It makes it easier for rescuers to be able to go inside, navigate what's happening. I must also tell you that according to one of the volunteers, at the back of the site, a carport has been set aside, some tarp placed down, and that is for the bodies that the rescuers are expected to recover at that stage. So they are preparing for that. There's no official word of going to the recovery mission, and it's a very difficult thing for disaster management teams to say. In many disasters we've covered previously, when the head of disaster comes to the media to say, we are in the recovery stage, you can sort of see some sort of emotion because this is a person who's been looking for people breathing, for survivors, but now that mission has changed. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure if the Labour Minister would be able to speak about this. There is, it's different aspects for different officials, but we'll keep asking those questions, critical questions, for one of the biggest crises in terms of a structural collapse that the country has seen in recent years here in George.
Well, thank you so much for that update there, Karinda. Jagmohan joining us from Victoria Street in George, where that building collapsed. And as we said, that in the next hour or so, it will mark exactly 72 hours since the building was reduced to rubble in a matter of seconds. The Minister of Labour, Thulas Nxesi, expected also to visit the site a bit later on as well. And remember that the Minister of Home Affairs yesterday indicated that he has also sent a delegation to the site to try and investigate the permits, whether or not those people who were working and employed by the various construction companies actually have permits to work on the site. One person that we spoke to yesterday indicated that his 18-year-old son doesn't have the necessary documents to even be in South Africa.